It was in the middle of the night at the end of January 2009 when 15 armed men stormed the Tiferet synagogue, overtaking the security guards. They entered the sanctuary here and they ransacked it. They took the Torah scrolls from their sacred place and they threw them on the floor. They went through the private studies, and on the outside, they spray painted anti-Semitic messages. And when you see that, you really start to understand why the Jewish community says they live in fear here.
A week later, 11 men were arrested, and the government claimed this was a simple burglary at the hands of delinquents. But nothing of value was stolen.
Death to the Jews, it said in the synagogue. That's what they left, the message. Those were common thieves. Whom are you trying to convince? One has to be an idiot to believe that. And how do you solve a crime in a few days?
Brenner says the government didn't try and solve the attack because the government was responsible. And what's more, Brenner says, the violence against the Jewish community is part of a pattern perpetrated by the government. That pattern also includes multiple police raids on Hebraica, the center of Jewish life in the Venezuelan capital of Caracas.
For the first time in recent history, we see what I would call government-sponsored anti-Semitism in a Western country.
And you think that Chavez's government is fostering this environment of anti-Semitism, which is directly affecting the Jewish community, as you've seen it in recent years?
Well, of course, because there's been so many actions. There's been hundreds of articles, radio programs, television programs, where the subject is treated in many different ways. There is the direct attacks against Jewish people. Then there is the indirect attacks, like saying about Zionist entity. All of a sudden we are part of a conspiracy to overthrow the government.
And the media outlets attacking Jews and Zionists, those who believe in Israel's right to be a sovereign Jewish state, aren't independent. The reality is that the government now controls all but one television station and the majority of print and online publications. And it's not just the state-controlled media spouting anti-Semitic rhetoric. On Christmas Eve 2005, President Chavez made a veiled reference to Jews, saying, "The descendants of those who crucified Christ, a minority that seized the world's riches, and they have concentrated the riches in a few hands." Then in 2006, during the war between Hezbollah and Israel, Chavez compared the Israelis to the Nazis.
Israel critica mucho a Hitler, nosotros también, pero han hecho algo parecido, qué sé yo, si peor que lo que hacían los nazis.
And in January of last year, President Chavez cut ties with Israel.
La República Bolivariana de Venezuela ha decidido expulsar al embajador de Israel.
In February, President Chavez seized this building in downtown Caracas and shut down the businesses which were primarily run by Jews. Today, anti-Semitic graffiti is still visible on the outside walls. We had to go in undercover with our camera because of the neighborhood, and were only there a few minutes before being stopped by Chavez supporters.
How do you go somebody who's been there for 30 years making a living, suddenly tell, listen, you got to get out of here. It's no longer yours. So you feel that what is yours maybe isn't exactly yours. There's been graffiti here for the last few years that you never had before. Never in my lifetime. And I've been here, as I told you, over 40 years, 42 and a half years in this country. I've never seen that.
And Rabbi Brenner has never had to travel with an armed bodyguard until now. But for the Jewish community, more troubling than the threats, the graffiti, and even the anti-Semitic rhetoric is Chavez's relationship with Iran's president and Holocaust denier Mahmoud Ahmadinejad.
The only thing that seems to unite the two countries is their government's hate for the United States and for Israel.
If you've got it, watch it. If you don't, call your TV provider to get HDNet today.